The last time I was pulled over by the police in the United States, I had the tags on my vehicle they were expired. I just bought the vehicle. And I was like, okay, this should be easy, but let me keep my hands 10 and 2. And the next thing you know, I have 4 police officers approaching my car with their guns drawn, pointed at my head. They get to my car, one of them's yelling, take your keys out of the ignition. And the other one's yelling, keep your hands on the steering wheel. At the same time, they're yelling this. And I realized, this is how someone becomes a hashtag.
It is the bare bones of what it says. It means Black Lives Matter. And that includes all lives. It's the bare minimum. For those who agree that Black Lives Matter, which I hope if you're a decent being, you do agree, then you are technically a part of the movement.
To be honest with you, before the whole George Floyd thing happened, I have no idea what it was. I think it's about how Black people feel so angry about what other race have been done to them.
But it is a very loosely organized movement. The initial focus of the movement was police brutality. However, of course, the movement also touches on other issues in education and sentencing reform and things of that nature.
Black Lives Matter is a movement that began on the cusp of the Trayvon Martin decision. There was a situation where there was a black boy, 17 years old, who was returning home from having bought candy, and he was followed by a citizen, not even a police officer, who decided that he looked suspicious. And he called the police and said, hey, there's this black guy walking around. The police said, okay, leave him alone. If it's a problem, we'll come and handle it. And the guy took it upon himself to go against what the cops asked him to do and confront the teen. And there was a fight, and the guy shot the kid in the chest, and the kid died. When the court decision came out, it was decided by the judicial system that the guy was justified in killing this child. I was actually in New York at the moment it happened, and I'll never forget exactly where I was, because that day I lost something that I'll never get back again.
I think Black people experience racism everywhere. Surely Vietnam, surely in Asia.
So from what I'm gathering, statistically, I could point to the job market.
It was really difficult for me to get a job when I first moved here, a teaching job. You know, my name on my resume, I don't use my name Jawanza Hobson, I use J.K. Hobson, because for some reason when I send the resume as Jawanza Hobson, I don't get called. But then when I put J.K. Hobson, I do. And then I walk in the door and they give me a face like they just got catfished. You know, it's like, oh, who the hell is this guy, you know? Now, because of the fact that a lot of people have been called out on that, they found new clever ways to ask for white people, European descent, blue eyes, all these other little attributes that white people have that Black people don't. You know, I've even had interviews and people said that they couldn't hire me because I'm Black. You know, not that they're racist, but the parents of the children.
There used to be one Black guy at my work. Whenever he walked out of the classroom, the parents just look at him like, why is this Black guy teaching my kid?
And I think with the local people here, it's just a not knowing.
What I have seen, what I have experienced is that there are some prejudice. I like to refrain from using the word racist, because racist has very specific systemic institutional undertones.
Whenever I hang out with my white friends, they would give me the look like, oh, she's so cool, she speaks English, and she's hanging out with like a bunch of white people. But if I hang out with my Black friends, the look I get, like they don't even have to say it, they just look at me and I would know that they look down on me. There's one time this guy, he told me that you with him because of his big dick, right? No man would ever said that to me if I hang out with my Vietnamese friend or with my white friends. But they said that because I'm with a Black guy.
Then you should come on. What's the difference? I have a life, I'm Black.
It's like very thinly veiled racism, you know what I mean? It's just a way to detract away from the original statement of Black Lives Matter, right?
I've met some people who said, hey, listen, you have white people that are dying in larger numbers from police violence. And I say, yes, you do. You also have a larger white population.
The issue with All Lives Matter is that it's not a movement, it's a rebuttal. There is no organization. There are no points that they're asking for. Unfortunately, All Lives Matter is used in contrast to Black Lives Matter when it should include it.
When you have people that talk about the homeless, you don't have people pop up, what about those with breast cancer? What about those who are handicapped? What about them? Right? If that is your focus, then create movements or join movements that are focusing on that.
For those who say Blue Lives Matter, you're right, they do matter. And so there are Black officers, Black police officers. That includes them, right? They do matter.
Black Lives Matter really cared so much about the Black community. How come they don't do something about gang violence in the inner city?
Most of the people who bring up black on black violence have no interest in solving that problem either.
Because they actually don't give a fuck about Black lives. They just want to use that as a talking point when they want to shut down the argument that Black lives matter.
You either see it as a problem or you don't. And that is the bottom line.
There have been tons of memes already, okay, there's this house on fire, and there's this house that's not. Oh, let's put the fire out. Oh, all houses matter. No, but this one is on fire. But I think it's been explained so many times at this point, when somebody comes out with that insipid argument, they're really saying more about themselves than they are saying about the actual issue or the actual statement that Black lives matter.
They take away from the cause for people who don't care about the cause.
I think that America is sending a very mixed message to Black people if what they want is for people to protest calmly and peacefully. It's not like people haven't been protesting about the same thing for over half a century, right?
Well, I don't support it. I don't support the looting things going on, but I know why they do it.
Absolutely not. If you were focused on the issue at hand, and for those who are looking at the cause and looking at what's going on, those people are understanding of, along with the protest, you have opportunists.
There are people that are not even a part of the protests that are committing a lot of the violence. A lot of them could be police, a lot of them could be white supremacists, but there's a lot of people that are also just really frustrated. Like, how many people can we watch die on camera? How many children? How many women? How many times can we see someone murdered in broad daylight, and then the next thing you know is investigate? Let's see every wrong thing they've done in their lives.
A lot of times when someone wants to negate or disenfranchise the Black Lives Matter movement, the counter is, well, what about the looting? Who cares about a target? If I know that the police officer who over-polices my neighborhood can come in and shoot me and kill me, all bets are off. Why should I live to a moral standard that you have set before me that you don't actually follow yourself? If what you're seeing the police do doesn't take away from your feelings about the police, then it sure as heck can't take away the message for Black Lives Matter.
You want the rioting and the looting to stop, then you need to address the problem that caused it. The problem that caused it is the fact that you have officers that are not being held accountable for their actions.
And then a lot of people who say, oh, why can't they protest peacefully, will bring up Martin Luther King. So Martin Luther King, okay, he's known for protesting peacefully. When Martin Luther King was murdered, he had a 75% disapproval rating amongst white people in the United States. He came up with the Civil Rights Act, and he was murdered before it got signed. And then for the next 6 days, the United States exploded. Violent, protesting, looting, burning. People said, fuck it, and just started burning shit to the ground. And guess what? The Civil Rights Bill was signed 6 days later, and it became a law. So it's like, if you're telling people you want them to protest peacefully, then listen when they do.
The first thing that people need to do is they need to listen.
Sometimes we can all get kind of stuck in our echo chamber, meaning that the people around us think like us, and our friends think like us because they come from the same area. So once we end up getting stuck in this bubble, we kind of adopt this mindset, then we can't really change.
If you are going to engage in a conversation, the first thing you want to do is take some facts that you just went to Google, pulled out that support your narrative that you already believe in, bring that into the conversation. Well, then we're already lost at that moment. We can't have a conversation.
A lot of times, if, in talking about this stuff, if somebody says white supremacy or talks about white privilege, talking about white people do this, oh, not me, I didn't do that, I didn't have slaves. It's like this natural inclination to be very defensive.
Normalizing the idea of when you get new information, it's okay to change your mind.
I think what happens a lot of times, especially in the era of social media, somebody makes a statement online, and then somebody argues with them, and then there's like a knee-jerk reaction to try to justify yourself. Like the worst thing in the world is to say, oh, I was wrong about something.
Most young people nowadays, they care more about the Kardashians and what this star's eating in a day and all the gossip tabloids thing. But when it's come to those big issues just like this one, they like, you know what? I'm not black, so it's not really my problem. Like, it doesn't change anything. If you do something, then there's something can be changed. But if you don't do anything, it means you are agreeing.
So if you're genuinely concerned or you're genuinely curious about the Black Lives Matter movement, then I would strongly suggest that you talk to the people who it impacts.
We all have to be in this together. Racism is not something, you don't just all of a sudden become, oh, I'm not racist. Like racism, it doesn't work that way. We're all victims of it. We can all succumb to it. You have to every day actively fight against it and challenge yourself. And that's something a lot of people just don't want to do.
It's really hard to admit when you've been wrong about something, but guess what? We all have, and it's okay. But it's like, what do we do about it? How do we change our behavior to try to move towards a more fair and just society? And that's good for everybody.